Hi, everybody, and I'm looking forward to this go-to meeting. I apologize for last week. We did have a quite lengthy orientation, and so we're going back to the recording that's supposed to have taken place on June 8th. We'll get on schedule. I had no idea that recording the orientation would take that long. So moving forward, I'm going to go ahead and enlarge my screen. And then, whoops, hi everybody. Not wanting to do that. Which one is the large screen? Oh, I must be showing my screen now. Okay, I think we're good to go. I will get the hang of this, I swear. Okay, so today we're gonna be talking about customer service and unique value proposition. You guys probably hear me talk about that a lot, and I'm still showing there we go. Can you see it now? We don't want the webcam.
Is it this one? Or one up?
There. Okay. We're good to go. Thank God this is just in-house. Okay, so let me go ahead and minimize. I know it's a beautiful day out. If you have any questions, I have Fallon here with me today, so she'll go ahead and share those with me. So let's go ahead and get started. So path to success, customer service, all these things are very, very important in what we do. So ask yourself, do you want your customers to be wowed? Wait, here we go. I'm off to a great start. God love it. Anyway, basic customer care selling tips. First, internalize your mindset and game plan. You know, for some of you have been in my coaching, you know, I always say start with the end result and then work your way backward. So that's when that's what I call a game plan. If you always know what your results are going to be, it's easier to kind of figure out the steps. And your mindset, hey, you're always in it to win it. You want it to be the best that you can possibly be and successful. And to be honest, that's something that we consistently have to work on, because in this business, I think more than any other, there's such highs and lows, and we're counselors. We wear so many different hats. It's really difficult at times to stay positive. So make sure your mind is always in the best place. One of the things that I always suggest is probably the first half hour, listen to some music, listen to some motivational things. I usually start my morning with music and end my nights with a list of to-do to purge, and then maybe some meditation or whatever works for you. There's plenty of stuff out there on YouTube. Okay, number 2, connect, make contact, and build rapport and trust. Again, we're talking about our customers and potential clients. Big deal is trust. And rapport is just another word for the rhythm of our communication. So one of the biggest complaints, and we'll talk about that in a little bit further, is, hey, Michael, is lack of communication. People need to feel that they're understood. Okay, another goal is to consult. Number 1 is discover wants, needs, and values. This is something that it's key, and this part of the conversation or the presentation is to really listen. People are willing to give a lot of information in which we need to appear interested, meaning we need to be taking notes that they can see. And if you're taking notes on a phone or a laptop, please let them know that you're doing that. One of the worst things I think that people will feel if you don't have eye-to-eye contact, that it's simple, that you're not engaged. And if you're not engaged, that means you don't care. And if that means you don't care, then you're probably not going to be the right fit of the person that they're going to select. And again, during our consultation, our written consultation, we're going to always refer back to that during the sales process, while we're showing houses, before we write a contract, after we write a contract, because we have to consistently validate their wants, needs, and values. It's not about us. This is the time, and yes, it's coming from me. This is the time, because I'm Miss Talkative, that we need to be quiet. Okay, number 4, present, validate, and demonstrate your unique value proposition. I have a whole presentation. I think this is so important. I mean, why would you go to Quick Trip, or why would you go to Schnucks, unless you knew who they were and what they stood for and what the brand was? You have to stand for something. You have to communicate that in an effective way. And furthermore, and we'll talk a little bit more about this in detail, what does it mean to your client / customer? I mean, it's great that you're very good at pricing or very good at negotiations, but they need to know that. They need to know that by the way you communicate. Okay? You just don't show up. Number 5, agree. Set mutual expectations and make a commitment. One thing that I think is imperative to survive long-term in this business is you also have to set the expectation about how you do business. Again, we're talking about your brand, what hours you work, how your preferred method of communication is, how many days do you need to have to set showing appointments. I mean, do you need 24 hours in advance notice? 48 hours in advance? Do you show 5 houses a day? That's what I used to do. I mean, I would never really try to go over 5 homes a day. It gets too tiresome. And especially in St. Charles County, when all of our houses, a lot of them look the same, they all start running in together. So these are the things that you talk about in the beginning in a comfortable atmosphere, preferably in the office, neutral territory, where you can actually have a very comfortable dialogue, and you can take your time and answer any questions, and also listen to what their expectations are as well. Then, if everybody's on the same page, or if you like to use this other terminology, everybody's on the same bus, then you make the commitment. Okay? So I know some of this stuff is really basic, but I think sometimes that we get away from it and we take it all for granted. So it's good to be reminded of, the very fundamentals of how to commit to excellent customer service. Okay, so number 6, serve, communicate, and deliver results. Really, we're just facilitators of information. Also, we need to, with the expectations we set, we need to deliver. So excuses, things happen, things come up. But bottom line is, you have to mean what you say. You have to do what you say. People will only tolerate that for so long, especially in this highly emotional transaction. People, they're scared, they're fearful. You hear me talk about fear-based decisions an awful lot. I mean, you have to be the peace in the storm. So, okay, so let's go next to the next slide. Okay, so what's the secret? People are happy when they feel understood and when they feel that you are taking care of their needs. Number 1 trait of human nature, people want to feel accepted and understood. If you read any books in psychology, if you read any fundamentals of anything like that, people, number 1, have a fear that they're not going to be accepted. Here you are with all this knowledge. They think that they're going to be asking stupid questions. So it's your job to make them feel very comfortable. It's your job to help take that fear away. It's your job to help them feel confident that they have you representing them. And how do you do that? You do that by education. You do that by knowledge. You do that by listening. So none of us in this position, I mean, it's very serious. It's very, very serious purchasing a home. I mean, we've all been there. So take it very seriously. Take your time and listen to your client's needs. Okay, so everything boils down to two things: communication and results. And whoops, one other, I always forget that. And how do you become exceptional? Because, guys, to say this is a competitive business is an understatement. I mean, the last time I checked the Missouri Real Estate Commission, I think there was 35,000 active license in the state of Missouri. So there's so many spokes to the wheel. You have to wear so many hats. You've got to be personable. You've got to be knowledgeable. There's so many things to being successful in this business. So we're going to start covering a few. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. Exceptional service, setting yourself apart to be the exception. I mean, really, I always tell people in the beginning of training 101, this is not an equal opportunity employer. This is not let's play fair. It's the exception, the driven, the committed, the hungry who's going to rise to the top. It's not a given. You can be charming and well liked and have one transaction and things go crazy, and then it's a whole different dynamic then. So do not depend on just your personality. Do not depend on any one facet of just your knowledge without the personality. So I know I'm beating a dead horse with this, but you guys, seriously, it's so important. You've got to be the total package. Okay, so how does this all happen? First of all, it can't be about you. How many times have you guys done business when you knew the other person on the side of the transaction only was concerned about their agenda, their money, their results? I mean, that comes through like shining colors. So number one, people will feel and they will sense if you truly have, or you're truly sincere in what they need and what their goals are. Okay? So understanding, focus on needs, wants, and values. That's easy. We've talked about that before. And what's a beautiful thing, if you are a United agent, you will have all this documented, and you will have this in something that you can go back to and reference and show your client. We agreed that this was what you needed. This is what you wanted. Okay. Predictability. Deliver what is promised and expected. I know we're independent contractors. I know we can do whatever we want to do, but you need to show up. You need to show up on time, and you need to show up for business. So when you tell a client you're going to be there at 10, I'd be there at 9:55. It all indicates how much you care or how organized your business is. I get it, it's a struggle. I know we have a lot on our plate. But again, and I don't know why I have schnooks on my brain all the time, but they always open in time. So think of yourself as a business. Okay, exceptionality. Provide the extraordinary and the uncommon. Again, this is a competitive business. Always be thinking on how you're going to be different. How are you going to stand out? How are you going to create that unique value proposition that not everybody else is promising? That should speak as far as how you do business and how you brand yourself. It should be one consistent message in your colors, in your services, in your brand, in your logo, in your message, in your culture. Everything should speak the same. Okay. Responsiveness. Respond quickly and be reliable. One of my pet peeves, and you guys might have heard me tell these stories, is you're at the closing table or 3 days prior to closing, and you have a lender, and they don't seem to be as upset as you, as concerned about as not being able to meet your closing deadline. Have that sense of urgency. You are the driver of the bus. You always act with a sense of urgency. Do not put things off. And I am going to do a very good class on timelines and how to be effective in your timeline and never miss a date. So that is key. That shows that you care. That shows that you're engaged. You guys, and seriously, we're talking about customer service right now. and impressions. A lot of it's body language. I mean, as well. I mean, somebody can tell when you're not there by your posture, by your tone, everything. Everything you do is your product. Okay. Okay, ask yourself, do you want your customers to be wowed? I hope so. Are you sincerely driven to help customers achieve their goals? I hope so. And do you think that your customer will recognize your sincerity? I hope so, because these are three key elements on what it takes to have successful relationships. And this is a relationship business. Even though I often say I'm a numbers girl, that's great and that's wonderful to have that validation, to have that support with numbers. But again, you have to really care about what you're doing. As honestly, you're in the wrong business. Okay, more traits of being exceptional. You must be compassionate and empathetic during the process, focusing on strengthening the trust and connection. For those of you, empathy is a huge deal. I mean, I actually put a definition. Empathy is the feeling that you understand and share another person's experiences and emotions, the ability to share someone else's feelings. That is key in these type of relationships. If they're feeling upset or stressed or fearful, they want to know that you're hearing this. Now, it becomes challenging with some of the clients that we deal with because it just you have all different types of personality. Again, go back to your disc so you can better understand how to communicate. And two, you have that written document. That one of the most powerful tools in sales 101. It's not you saying it, it's not them saying it. You let the document speak for itself. So I hope I'm real clear on that. It's not you saying it or them saying it. The document is the bad guy or the good guy. Okay, so always remember that, and that's going to be used in a lot of different situations. Okay, key. You must continuously consult with your customer to ensure a thorough comprehension of needs, wants, and values. When you focus your actions and your words on their needs, wants, and values, customers clearly recognize that you understand them and that you care. Simple, right? And of course, that's sarcasm. But the thing of it is that you constantly, and that's one of the things we'll talk about in Timeline, actually put this in as a task. Call them, ask them how they're feeling, ask them if there's anything that you're missing, ask them if they delivered the paperwork to the lender, validate them, let them know that you're there to solve their problems. Because probably if I had to put a definition on us, I think that's number one. We're problem solvers. So the key to success is to listen for the problem and then have the solution. Okay? All right. Always remember, so let's get started working with Buyer's Consult. Bottom line, it's not who you know, it's who knows you, likes you, and is willing to do business with you or refer business to you. Okay, I would probably put that on a sticky and remind myself, look in the mirror, whatever you got to do. So you have to treat people fair, for sure. Can't be all about you. Okay, so one of the first things you need to do is present your benefits to the buyers. Okay, that's a lot harder than what you think. So take some time out, especially the newer agents, and what are your benefits? Who are you? Write them down. Because you're going to, I would recommend put this in a nice presentation so that you can email, you can start the conversation, or definitely at least use this for your consult. Okay, so let's go through a few of them here. Let them know who you are and what you can do for them. That's all they care about. They don't care about how successful you really are. They don't care. I mean, back in the day, we used to have these brag books. It was torture for clients. They would sit and we would go through a whole book of all our awards and how awesome we were and how awesome our company was. Don't do that. That's so old school. It is what's in it for them. Okay. Presentations are unique to each agent. Depend on your strengths and what unique qualities you bring to the table. I recommend everything I do in marketing, I do it as if somebody with attention deficit was reading it. Make it short, bullet pointed, make it clean, and make it quick. They're not gonna stay as a captive audience for very long. Remember the I and you. Principle when presenting to buyers, this is key, any feature of yourself or service you present should be followed by a statement of why that is important to them. I should probably underline this. So, you close 50 transactions. Okay, that's great. Is that number good? Is that number bad? They don't know. So what is it? What's the benefit for them? You can explain to them, or Mr. or Mrs. Buyer, I have experience. I've mostly negotiated contracts between 250,000. That's your price range. I have a successful track record. I'm great with pricing, and kind of go into your spiel about how you're going to accomplish the best price for them. Okay, use a home buying packet in your presentation. Don't ever think, I made that mistake once, that you're that good or you know it by heart that you can just show up because you're just that awesome. Don't ever do it. Again, go back to your desk. C's will go into a panic unless you don't have facts, numbers, and documentation. I would even go too far to say the next step, I would email it to them beforehand so they can, their processors, so they can take time and going through the information. Now, again, if you guys don't think the disc is a big deal, I'm going to tell you, I'm the troubleshooter. I'm the broker. I get the phone calls. And sometimes when I'm talking to, for an example, a high C, and that particular person dealt with a high I who was just charming and sweet and just the nicest person in the world, but the C felt like they didn't have enough information to make a good decision. So therefore, they felt that they were not properly represented. I hear it a lot. Remember, a majority of society or whatever are S's and C's. I need to send out the definitions for those so you guys can get better acquainted in how to deliver and how to talk to one of those. Okay, so again, use your home buying packets in person. So here we're going to talk about unique value proposition again. Okay, so as you create your unique value proposition, put some serious thought into this. Keep in mind what is important to buyers. These are true numbers from the National Association of Realtors. What is their biggest fears? Again, here I go back to the fear thing. What is their goals? What are their biggest concerns? Whatever you want to call it, everything comes from fear. Fear if you're going to make the right decision, fear that you're not going to make the right decision, fear you're going to be taken advantage of, fear that you're going to lose, fear that you're going to be made fun of, you're not going to fit in. All those things come into play with everything we decide. Okay, so number one concern / fear. Help find the right home to purchase. See, to us, we think that that's the fairly easy part because, we're not emotionally involved and we have the MLS and, the inventory. I think this is getting more and more of a challenge in the seller's market. Well, 57% of them, this is their number one concern. 2, which I would think would be a bigger concern, is help them with price and negotiations. Now, we here on the seller end, when we get ready to list a home, that we run a CMA. You guys should be running these CMAs for buyers before they make an offer. Before the buyer writes a contract to purchase, you run the same type of CMA to make sure a couple of different things. They paying too much? But one of my favorites, are they realistic in their offer? It's up to you to educate them. But we'll get into, that's one of my favorite topics, so we'll get into that as we go further along with the go-to meetings. Help with paperwork. Now, to me, again, training newer agents, this is more of a challenge in finding the right home is kind of fun, right? but this is what the survey says. Tell what comparable homes are selling for. Again, they're not as concerned about that, but as we get more and more educated buyers, with the internet, with Zillow, with Realtor.com, with all the articles out there, I think they're going to be a little bit more savvy. So please, please be prepared. Okay, so I don't sell houses. Houses sell themselves. However, it is my job to make sure I get you the house you like for the best price with the least amount of resistance. Right? Isn't that what we're doing? I mean, my mansion to somebody else's. I mean, I've had buyers ask me, well, what do you think about this house? Or find me a really cute house. Well, that's relative. So always make sure that you let them know that your job is to get them the best house that they like for the best price with the least amount of resistance. And that means knowing what you're doing. Key word. Okay. Most important factors when choosing an agent. I thought this was kind of interesting. So 42% is agent's reputation or perceived reputation. 24% agent's knowledge of the neighborhood as the most important factor in this decision. Don't you guys just find that absolutely fascinating, since everything is internet now? Now, sometimes it is important to know the neighborhood when we go into, different pockets of the city or different areas. You do kind of need to know, the ins and out of that particular neighborhood. Maybe something that's happening that's, coming soon, or a new business or something like that. But bottom line is, they think that you need to know the neighborhood than you really do, if that makes sense. So right now, with all the information that we have available, we have tons of statistics. We have tons of things, validating numbers. We have all that. Okay, so again, do your homework. 42% of agents' reputation. Well, how in the heck do they know, since it's such a big virtual world out there, how do they know what your reputation is? The great advantage to that, especially you newer agent, is you get to create your reputation. You get to create your brand. You get to create your perception. I know you guys have heard that story, my short sell story. She's still in business. That one day she woke up and she decided to be a short sell expert. I tell that story all the time, and it's the truth. So she put out there that she was an expert in that particular market. You guys, it's magic. You can do the same. When I first started training, so when I asked them to do, or who do they want to be when they grow up, or what's 3 areas you really want to focus on? This is the reason why. Because we want to create your reputation, or your perceived reputation, and your brand in those given areas. Okay? All right, so think about that, especially those of you that are newer or haven't really done this part of it yet. Okay, so unique. Okay, so basically, it's kind of simple, and you've heard me say this, but what sets you apart from your competitors? Why should I do business with you? Why should I do business with Sally Sue, who, came with this presentation and has the numbers and has this? What makes you unique enough and of value enough to me that I want to do business with you? Okay? You could say I'm formally trained in customer service. Okay. But what does that mean? What's the value to the client? Okay. Or you can say I'm a consultant, not a salesperson, or my favorite thing, I'm facilitator of information. One of the biggest mistakes I often make sometimes, because I've been doing this for 25 plus years, I naturally assume people know what my language is. In the real estate business, we do have a unique language. Make sure that you're saying what you mean, and that they understand what you mean. So try to stay away from, trade words and different things like that. Okay. Again, what is in it for them? So your value, what are the benefits to the buyer by using your services? You will have assistance in negotiating the best price. I think that's kind of a big deal, but you need to prove it. You got to prove you're a good negotiator. You will be provided with the most up-to-date information, which is not available to other customers. Again, you're going to have to prove it. How are you going to do that? Why can't I go on Zillow? I mean, what are you going to give me that I can't get somewhere else? Okay, so always be prepared to prove yourself. Okay, and lastly, number one, I will help you understand the complicated process of purchasing a home. New agents, you have to understand the complicated process of purchasing a home. Because honestly, what you learned in real estate school is about zero in the field. So you know as much as about the process of purchasing a home as they do. So you better put your nose to the grindstone and be the best, know the most, and be able to step up to the table and offer them the easiest process compared to your competitor. Okay? Stress, 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 stress. You got to deflate that for them. You're there to keep the peace. You keep the peace by having the answers and staying in control. In order to truly recognize your value, buyers must see the value of your services, not the features. Put some meat to it. Give examples of how you would do that. So usually I do this in a classroom setting. This is the time where we take a break and we would kind of role play and kind of write down what our services are and our individual brand. So again, I recommend you do that. If you would like to email that to me, I'd be more than happy to take a look at it and help you kind of go through that and have some fun with it. Okay? So session 2, what's our objectives? You always got to have objectives, right? You always got to have goals. You always got to be moving forward. So number 1, the basic steps of the buyer consultation. We kind of talked about that in length in the very first go-to meeting that we did a couple of weeks ago, which you'll find on the YouTube channel. And again, it's review how to schedule in-office appointments with buyers. That is always the best scenario. I can share with you a couple of scripts that would make it easier, but you guys always be yourself. The only goals of scripts, in my personal opinion, is to reach certain answers. Are they ready? Are they able? And are they willing? Your script should always be around that. Okay? To find how to recommend a pre-qualification, we kind of talked about that. And if you go to reference, you'll see a list of great pre-qualifying questions. Number 4, review how to identify a buyer's values using our exercise in our customer service commitment. So I've shared that again in the last, this is the step 2 and kind of the final step in preparing yourself to do an in-house buyer consultation. I should have that uploaded partly with the number 1, and then we'll finish up with the additional add-ons here. Again, this is usually done in office. Okay, so practice, practice, practice. Practice the initial steps of the buyer consultation until you own it. I think in the previous one, I did have a phone script with that. If you would like to make an appointment with me, I'm more than happy to role play with you. There's a lot of really cool questionnaires that you can use. I think probably the biggest key is, and probably the most challenging, is getting them to commit to the appointment. So let's go ahead and work on that. Again, I'm available to work on any of these objectives to you. This is part 2. And to be honest, I should have made this part 1 and then step 2, but this is a total package, so you guys should have everything you need. One thing, if you have your pen and paper out, and I suggest you do, is I want to kind of get you familiar with how to qualify. When I talk about qualifying a buyer, and one of the basics, and we're going to retouch on this again and again, but when you're beginning in your career, you're updating your CRM, your database and stuff like that, how do you, once you qualify them, how do you rate them? Where do you put them? What do you do with that information after you have it? So I'm going to give you a couple of key steps And again, as what works best for your business, but some basic ideas of how I used to do it. Okay, so the first thing, if you have a buyer who is going to purchase within 30 to 60 days, what that means, when you hear me sometimes refer as an A buyer is wanting to purchase within 30 to 60 days, has been pre-approved, and actively engaging and viewing properties. This is a buyer that you want to get into the buyer consultation. This is a buyer that you want to touch at least minimum 2 to 3 times a week. You want to make sure you get that appointment, you get them in the office, you get them on a custom client search, and you get them engaged. You have to constantly be selling yourself on a daily basis. Okay, so we have an A buyer, 30 to 60 days. You have a B buyer is wanting to purchase within 60 days, has not completed their pre-approval, and are still a ready, able, and willing buyer, are almost there. So you want to get them into the consultation or two. These are the A's and B buyers, is people that are really kind of within a 90 to 120 days that you want to constantly communicate with. Okay, a C buyer hasn't really talked to a lender yet. The magic words, you'll hear this a lot. I want to find the right house. Well, sometimes it takes time to educate them and teach them. You still want to send them the consultation to keep them engaged. One of the favorite things that I like to say is, this is an opportunity for you to be really clear on what you're looking for. Take your time, fill out the consultation, and I'm more than happy to recommend 3 preferred lenders, so at least we know the right direction that we're going into. Again, I always ask them what their monthly payment is now, what they're comfortable with. I don't ask them sales prices. They don't relate to sales prices. They relate to monthly payments. So, you're going to continually having these conversations. A, hot lead, hot buyer. B, pretty warm, still want to communicate with a lot. A, you probably should have already had him in for the buyer consultation. B, you really want to schedule them as soon as possible. And C, I'd probably touch them bi-monthly. Okay? Another thing that I wanted to add is 101, because we have a little bit of more time left, is your goal is to add 10 prospects daily to your CRM. So that's something that we're going to talk about in great length. We'll probably do one complete go-to meeting on how to develop a CRM, what you should be doing with it, what is the best CRMs out there, and how do you convert the people in your CRM to an A buyer, a B buyer, or a C buyer. Okay, so I hope you got a little bit about that. Some of the things that we're going to be coming up with is how to co-market, especially with you agents that don't have any inventory. This is a great way to start branding yourself and position yourself as a player in the market. Remember when we talked about the perception is key. So I'm going to teach you how to create that perception. Okay, so in closing, be thinking about your unique value proposition, be practicing your buyer consultation phone call, how to get the appointments, and 3, also be constantly engaged with sending out beforehand your complete buyer consultation packet. If you'd like to know what I include in mine, it would be a buyer consultation, the process of buying a home, the actual steps, the steps of getting pre-qualified, qualified, and I usually send out some definitions, agency, anything. Oh, another thing I probably do, is send out a home warranty so they can read it. Anything to save you time to make them feel warm and fuzzy, and they can do the process up front. So you guys have any questions? Have a great day, and I will be available this weekend. If you have any contract calls only contract calls on weekends, no training calls. I'll talk to you soon. Thanks.